Welcome to Weekly News Highlights, where we wrap up your week with a glimpse back into what went on in the past week. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. The 2023 World Scout Jamboree in South Korea's Saemangeum came to an end after all the struggle with the extreme heat and the typhoon. A grand K-pop concert wrapped up the 25th edition of the world's largest camping festival in Seoul. Typhoon Canoe ripped through the entire length of South Korea this week, leaving one person dead, tearing down roofs in cities and swallowing farmlands in floodwater. China has decided to resume its outbound group tours to South Korea for the first time in more than 6 years since Seoul's deployment of a U.S. defense system. South Korea wrapped up the 2023 World Scout Jamboree on Friday. The 12 days were quite eventful, with issues caused by heat and the closing of the Saemangeum campsite due to Typhoon Khanun, which hit the peninsula this week. Instead, the camping festival turned into a nationwide event, with Scout members carrying on activities in different parts of the country, like this group of young Spanish Scouts.
The 25th Saemangeum World Scout Jamboree has entered a new phase. Following their early departure from the Saemangeum campsite on Tuesday, Scouts have been enjoying experiences all over the country. On Wednesday, a team of 123 people from Spain visited the National Folk Museum of Korea in Paju, Gyeonggi-do Province, as part of their revised Jamboree program. Most of the Spanish Scouts mentioned that, although they were quite tired, taking part in various activities was better than simply staying in hotels and doing nothing.
I'm sad because I can't go with other countries, and that was the point of the Jamboree. But we're happy because we're doing other activities. Here is just one choice, but it's okay. It's so nice that they could give us the choice to still doing activities and not just stay in the hotels doing nothing.
One of the team members mentioned that a small night concert with other countries during the first week was his most memorable moment.
I think that the first week it was a nice experience. My favorite experience was at night that they make like a little concert, and we go with people of other parts of the world, and we start like dancing different songs. We could ask the DJ to play different songs, and we learn like other culture songs.
Despite the long journey to their new accommodation from the Saemangeum campsite, they expressed their gratitude to Korea for its hospitality.
I really liked seeing the big signs with the Korean letters in the streets, like on the buildings and stuff. I didn't expect them to be that nice, but you're also really nice people. You're always there to help us, so I had a good time at Seoul.
The team later said that while it's true the Saemangeum campsite was hot and many issues arose all at once, they viewed the Jamboree from a different perspective.
Everything that I saw like in the press was very different as what I was seeing inside. People got used to it. We were doing the normal activities and everything. When we spoke with other leaders inside the Jamboree, they also had different realities, and they also didn't experience as many problems as we were seeing in newspapers or in TV.
The Scouts will continue their experiences nationwide until the end of the Jamboree on Saturday. 최수형, 아리랑뉴스, 파주.
And before the tropical storm, the extreme heat put many Scouts in challenging situations. In fact, British Scout members pulled out of Jamboree early due to the hot weather. Instead, they looked elsewhere to make their time here in the country meaningful and fruitful. Our Choi Min-jung shares her story.
A variety of tours and programs are being put on for World Scout Jamboree participants who decided to leave the Saemangeum camping site located on South Korea's west coast. As one of the alternative programs, the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs on Tuesday launched a 3-day peace camp for British Scouts so that they can still get the most out of their time in South Korea. Around 1,200 British Scouts are participating in the program until Thursday, where they will learn about the contribution of British soldiers who fought in the Korean War. Their first stop is Gloucester Hill Memorial Park in Paju. It was built in memory of the British soldiers who fought and died during the Battle of the Imjin River in 1951. Putting aside their disappointment, the Scouts pay tribute to their British military service members who sacrificed their lives during the Korean War.
It's an honour to be here. I'm speechless, to be honest with you, but it's an absolute honour to be here and to represent the UK as well is to be amazing.
I think it's great being able to experience this Korean culture, and it's nice to learn about it and see how the Koreans feel about it and see our involvement in it.
The program meant a lot to the unit leader as his grandfather actually fought in the Korean War.
Very emotional for me because he died last year, and also he was the first scouter in our family. So to come to Korea with the scouts and to be able to do this, incredibly special.
The Jamboree members also took a tour of the War Memorial of Korea and visited Seoul National Cemetery. The Veterans Minister said he hopes that the program will be a precious opportunity for the young British Scouts to experience South Korea, a country that was built through the sacrifice and dedication of troops 70 years ago. Nearly 4,500 British Scouts, the largest group of all the Scout contingents currently visiting South Korea, left the Jamboree site in Saemangeum for Seoul over the weekend, amid mounting safety concerns stemming from a sweltering heatwave and the oncoming typhoon. 최민정, 아리랑뉴스.
Typhoon Canoe ripped through almost the entire Korean peninsula, going straight up from south to north. That is a rare path for a typhoon to take. Traveling across the country for nearly 16 hours, the typhoon left one person dead and scarred parts of the nation with power outages and flooded roads and farms.
On Thursday night, central parts of Seoul and the greater metropolitan area saw 80 millimeters of rain per hour from around 9 p.m., all attributable to the effects of Khanun. In addition, the Korean Meteorological Administration said that Seoul is expected to see more rainfall, 5 to 14 millimeters until Saturday, while northern Gyeonggi-do province is forecast to receive 20 to 60 millimeters.
Typhoon Khanun has weakened and moved into North Korea, but in Seoul and here in Hanam, we are still seeing rain.
The typhoon maintained its intensity and making landfall in southern regions of the peninsula, but weakened as it moved along the length of the country to the capital area. As a result, significant damage was avoided, but the typhoon is expected to be recorded as an unusually long-lasting weather event with its heavy downpours. Khanun is the second typhoon to stay over South Korea for more than 12 hours following Typhoon Solik in 2018. The Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters reported, as of 11 a.m., 379 cases of property and facility damage, including residential flooding and a combined submerged agricultural area of over 11.5 square kilometers, or around 3.3 times larger than Central Park in New York. While power outages affecting 46,000 households were also reported, over 98% of them have had theirs restored. However, there were no reported casualties from the typhoon, although there was one drowning incident in Daegu and one person is currently missing. As Typhoon Khanun has moved on to near Pyongyang in North Korea from 11 a.m., all typhoon warnings and restrictions nationwide in South Korea have been lifted. The KMA said that by Sunday, the entire country will be free from the typhoon's influence, but that the extreme heat is expected to return. 최수형, 아리랑뉴스.
Beijing announced on Thursday that it will allow outbound group tours from China to 78 countries. Now, the destinations also include here South Korea, which means Chinese tour groups will be able to travel to the country for the first time in more than 6 years since the so-called THAAD retaliation ban. Our Kim Mo-gyun tells us more.
For the first time in 6 years and 5 months, the Chinese government has given the green light for group tours to South Korea. In an announcement made on Thursday, China's Culture Ministry lifted its ban on group tours to 78 countries, which also includes the U.S. and Japan. It explained that its previous decisions to ease travel restrictions in January and March this year had a positive impact on its tourism industry. At that time, China was allowing group travel to a total of 60 countries following a decision to scrap its zero-COVID measures. However, South Korea was not on the list, with group tours to Korea banned from March 2017 in an apparent retaliation for the country's deployment of the U.S.-made Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or the THAAD system. The South Korean government welcomes the move, saying it will launch efforts to attract more Chinese tourists. Seoul's Culture Ministry says it expects the latest announcement to bring life back to the nation's tourism industry, which was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. To make things more convenient, the government plans to open new visa application centers in Beijing and Shenyang. It had already begun resuming its no visa transfer system for Chinese group tours to Jeju Island in May. Meanwhile, procedures for Korean tourists applying for Chinese visas will also be simplified. Until the end of 2023, Korean people heading to China for tourism and travel purposes will no longer be required to provide fingerprints. Kim Mo-gyan, 아리랑뉴스.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this week called for ramped-up efforts for war preparations. This is seen as a move to keep things rocky here on the Korean peninsula ahead of South Korea-U.S. joint military drills later this month. Our Choi Min-jung explains this motive.
A photo released by North Korea's state-run media shows its leader Kim Jong-un pointing at the South Korean capital and the surrounding areas on a map. Speaking at a meeting of the Central Military Commission on Wednesday, Kim called on his regime to prepare for the possibility of war in an offensive manner. The regime's Korean Central News Agency reported on Thursday that Kim stressed the need to expand mass production of weapons. He also reportedly highlighted the importance of a strong army to carry out its military strategy. In addition, the leader called for the military to expand its drills to keep its forces perfectly ready for combat. Experts say the meeting was held as a show of discontent against Seoul and Washington's annual Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise set to take place later this month.
In the past, North Korea responded to Seoul-Washington drills by firing short-range ballistic missiles. However, this time, they have shown that they are preparing for war. Given this, tensions on the Korean peninsula are expected to rise considerably.
During the meeting, Kim also replaced his top general Park Soo-il with Lee Young-gil, who previously served as the regime's defense minister.
Lee Young-gil has a lot of real-life experience with regard to defense, security, and artillery. So hiring experienced personnel like this appears to be a strategic move to prepare firmly against South Korea's Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise with the U.S.
Also discussed in the meeting was North Korea's preparation for a military parade on September 9th to mark the regime's 75th founding anniversary. Given the prior notice, pundits say the scale of the parade is likely to be considerably big. Choi Min-jung, 아리랑뉴스.
South Korea's Labor Ministry just last week unveiled a pilot scheme to allow the hiring of 100 nannies or home helps from overseas. To delve deeper into this issue, we are joined by our Lee Si-hoo here in the studio. Welcome back, Si-hoo.
Hi, Dami.
So, Si-hoo, what's the government's plan entail? I mean, how will it change the current immigration and employment policies?
So the plan is to issue non-professional employment visas to workers from overseas. Currently, the only non-Koreans who can legally work in this field are those who already possess long-term visas. That includes those who are on long-term visas through marriage to a Korean national or non-Korean nationals who are ethnically Korean and have an overseas Korean's visa. Now, the work visas to be given to foreign workers would restrict them from switching fields of employment.
So this whole plan is to help the country's low birth rate, right? How will it actually work then?
Well, South Korea's total fertility rate last year was at a record low of 0.78. That's the lowest in the world. As for the capital Seoul, the rate was even lower at 0.59, which is not even half of the OECD average. This is why Seoul City is especially keen on this issue and also why the pilot project will begin in Seoul. Now, the cost is also another motivating factor. Currently, Korean workers in the field are usually paid around 15,000 Korean won per hour or around $11 if they commute and around 3.5 to 4.5 million won a month if they live with a family. But according to the government's plan, foreign workers will be paid much less, around the minimum wage, and will have to commute. The government is hoping that this would help parents with childcare and encourage them to have more children, especially when many mothers also have day jobs.
But Shihu, perhaps what's most important is that how people are actually perceiving the change, especially moms and dads, right, who actually have children. How are they reacting to this plan?
Well, I got a chance to speak with some parents and also some couples. They mostly welcomed the cost aspect, but there were some notable concerns. Let's take a listen.
I think with the not so good economic situation that we're facing, I think it would help if the cost side of things works out well.
I think more than that, policies that allow parents to look after their children themselves need to be implemented soon. Rather than employing foreign nannies, there could be policies allowing parents to leave work an hour earlier.
In childcare, interaction, emotion and culture play a big role. But South Korea does not have that cultural diversity at this moment in time, so I think it'd be a bit difficult to implement.
A working father and also a mentor for the Labor Ministry who provides real-life advice and feedback on the ministry's policy-making process echoes these concerns.
It's even difficult for those here in Korea, including the grandparents and neighbors, to thoroughly understand the mom and dad's parenting philosophy and accurately recognize the family's culture to be able to participate in childcare. The parents around me say they're worried whether the foreign workers will be able to join and participate in their family properly in what will be a unique environment.
To alleviate these concerns, the government says there will be strict hiring requirements, including sufficient experience and knowledge in the field, age, linguistic capabilities, and clean criminal records.
Now, so there are requirements to help minimize cultural misunderstandings. And now there has also been talks, what is the appropriate cost of hiring these domestic workers? Now, some say we should apply the minimum wage, and some insist we shouldn't.
Right. Well, parents say that when it comes to childcare, the cost isn't their number one concern. Listen in.
The parents aren't just looking at the numbers. What's important is whether we can fully trust the quality of care. I think it would be better to foster an environment where the workers can provide high-quality services like professionals, rather than minimum wage workers.
Mr. Kim Jin-won further explained that having experienced childcare himself, he understands how much energy and responsibility and effort goes into childcare, and it's important for the workers to be compensated for a fair amount for their work.
So quality over the immediate cost.
Right.
Then what are experts' thoughts on this?
Well, a researcher who studies the effects of employing foreign workers highlighted that domestic care and childcare are different areas of expertise that require different skill sets and offered possible alternatives.
We could consider implementing a training system for those who have already spent a long time in South Korea, such as international students or foreign workers who are familiar with Korean culture and ways of life to work in these fields to help with any cultural clashes.
In regard to the cost of employing these workers, Dr. Lee said that government funding could help those in need.
Even if the minimum wage is applied, we could lessen the burden on parents by providing government vouchers for vulnerable social groups and ensure that foreign workers provide a quality service of work.
Then Sihu, tell us the opinions of those who are already working in this field. Any comments or concerns?
Well, the South Korean Union of Domestic Workers says that a more thorough study on the supply and demand of services should be conducted before any further steps are taken.
We're against this project so rushed, unprepared, and unclear who's in wish.
But what those in the field, the parents, and the experts all agree on is that comprehensive efforts should be made to create an environment where the parents themselves can take care of their children.
The priority should be fostering company and family culture that allows parents to take care of children through lessened work hours, parental leave, and without gender discrimination.
So it's important that we consider all these factors, including the family culture, into consideration when piloting these programs.
Right, and there'll be a trial period in the latter half of the year in the coming months, and let's see how this unfolds for both moms and dads and also those who get hired.
Right.
All right, Shihu, thank you for the report today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching Weekly News Highlights. Have a lovely weekend.